Hello, Mr. Barton here, and welcome to another GCSE Maths Question of the Week, where every week I try my very best to find you a lovely maths question that has been kindly provided for my Diagnostic Questions website by the exam bodies to help you prepare as best you can for the demands of this GCSE Maths exam. Now, this topic is an old, tried and tested classic. However, it is causing students loads of problems, so I thought it was worth covering in this Question of the Week series. And it goes something like this. What is the value of the missing dimension? And we can clearly see labelled there a lovely little question mark. So, often in maths questions, you're asked to work the other way. So you're told some dimensions and you're asked to work out the area. But this time we've got the area and we're asked to work backwards to find a missing dimension. And that's what makes this question a little bit more difficult than your usual. Okay, but we can cope with this, we'll be absolutely fine. First things first, what shape is that? Because that needs establishing, right? Well, that is a trapezium. Now, what makes a trapezium a trapezium? It has got one pair of parallel lines that are opposite to each other. So therefore we've got a trapezium. Now, what's your formula for an area of a trapezium? Now, you might get lucky. They might give you this formula in the front of your formula book or alongside one of the questions that you're working with, but it's always worth knowing that formula anyway. Now, there are a few different ways of writing it, but I go for it like this. Area is equal to A plus B divided by 2, and I like to pop a little bracket in there, times by, and you don't have to put the times in if you don't want, times by H. Now, what's A and B, I hear you ask? Well, A and B are my two parallel sides. I always say A is the top one, B is the bottom one. So on this diagram here, A would be this length and B would be this length. Okay, so let's fill out what we know, and I'm going to treat myself to a bit of yellow here. Well, I actually know the answer. I know what the area is. The area is 30, so I know that's my final answer. A, I don't know what that is. That's my question mark. Just because I'm a traditionalist, I'm going to call that X. B, yeah, I know what that is. That's going to be 8. That's my bottom one. Divided by 2, that stays the same, times by H, which is my vertical height or perpendicular height, which is going to be 6. Well, what have we got here? We've essentially got an equation to solve, an algebraic equation. Now, it looks a tricky one, but it's actually not that bad. And if we can solve this equation, we're going to figure out what X is. So let's go ahead and solve it. What's the first thing I need to do to free up this X? Well, 8's been added to it. And if you've watched these videos before, you'll know I talk about wrapping things up. So we've got X, it's been wrapped up in a plus 8, then a divide by 2, then a times by 6. If we want to figure out what X is, we're going to have to unwrap that in reverse order. So let's get rid of that last layer, that times by 6. How do we get rid of a times by 6? Well, we divide by 6. So let's divide both sides by 6. 30 divided by 6, I think is going to be 5. And if I divide this whole side by 6, then that times by 6 is gone. And I'm just left with X plus 8 divided by 2. Oh, sorry about that. Right, next layer was the divide by 2. So to get rid of that, I'm going to do the inverse. I'm going to times by 2. So if I times this left by 2, 5 times 2, 10. Equals X plus 8. I'm nearly there. Just got to get rid of a plus 8. So I'm going to take 8. 10 take 8 is going to be 2. So X is going to be equal to 2. I now cross my fingers and hope that's one of the answers. Let's have a look. Yay, nice. B is going to be the right answer. But before you go, wait a minute. We learn so much if we think, where do each of these wrong answers come from? So let's go through these in turn quickly. What about A, 12 centimetres? Where the flipping heck has 12 centimetres come from? Well, it's an interesting one, this. I reckon this comes from a bit of a misuse of the formula. Because there's two ways of writing this formula. There's like I've written it there, or you can put this divide by 2 at the front as a half. But if you muddle them up, I've seen some students put it in both flipping places. So they end up halving it and halving it again. So if you think to get the area, you've got to halve it and halve your answer again because you've accidentally counted this in 2 places, then you're going to end up with 12 as your answer. So just be careful. Make sure you know your formula inside and out and how to use it. Okay? C, 5 centimetres. This is a classic. Why 5 centimetres? Well, 5 centimetres, I reckon, comes from, if that's 5, and the student just does 5 times 6, so the top bit times your height, well, you're going to end up with 30 there. So I reckon that is where that particular one comes from. Just simply doing your top times your height. And finally, what about D? 6 centimetres. Well, this is a classic. I've been there myself. Have a look at it. You don't know how to do it. So you think, oh, maybe get the ruler out. It looks about the same as this height there. That bit going across. So let's just have a guess. 6 seems sensible. Let's go for 6. But of course, you've got to be careful. Because what is the key thing in the question? Not drawn to scale. So, I mean, this thing looks nothing like 2 centimetres, but it's because it's not been drawn to scale. So I reckon people are going for 6 just because it looks a bit like it's going to be 6, but of course it's not really. And just before you go, you know I always like to challenge you to think of an alternate incorrect answer. What would you go for there? Well, I've gone for, if my math is right here, 10 centimetres. Now, where's 10 centimetres come from, I hear you say? Well, I reckon that if students do the 8 on the bottom, plus the 6 going up the side, plus the 6 going up the other side, plus 10, I reckon, if my maths is right, you end up with 30. So if you mistake area for perimeter, you might well end up with 10 as your wrong answer. But anyway, hope that was useful. My strong advice would be to try the quiz that this comes from. Whatever exam board you're doing, it's an area revision quiz. It tackles triangles, rectangles, parallelograms, kites, all those classics. It'll really make sure that your area skills are up to scratch. And if you need any help with areas of quadrilaterals or other shapes, hop on Mr. Bart Maths. You'll get videos, worksheets, all that kind of stuff. And I'll see you for a fresh question of the week next week. Take care. Bye for now.